welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be making chamomile honey. So lately I've been getting into cold brew coffee. I've been really enjoying for a couple of weeks now having a cold brew in the morning and then another one right before lunchtime. I feel like I'm not a coffee person in general, so for me it's like a huge pick-me-up. I've never had a good reaction to coffee before, and I guess now that I'm entering my 30s, my body is ready for the extra boost. So all that is to say, I like to add something sweet to my coffee, and I do an overnight cold brew, and then in the morning I add some oat milk and a little bit of a sweetener and a bunch of ice, and then I have a nice cold brew iced coffee. But I don't want to use just plain sugar. Up until now, I've been using my dandelion honey, which we made together last year with fresh dandelion flowers, and it's basically a condensed sugar syrup made from dandelion flowers. It comes out the color of honey, and it's just sweet and floral like honey, but it's not honey. Anyway, I want to do the same thing, but I want to do it with chamomile. So I've already done it before with dandelions, but I have all of this chamomile from last summer. Look how much is in there. I'm not using nearly enough of this like at night for my evening tea, so I have tons left, and spring is here, so I'm going to have fresh chamomile to harvest in like a month. So knowing that, I can work through quite a good chunk of this all in one recipe without feeling like I'm gonna run out of chamomile. So for this project, I am going to be making a really strong chamomile tea. I'm going to, on a low simmer, put some chamomile with a pot of water and just let it infuse as much as possible. Probably I'll let it steep for an hour on the heat and then an hour just off the heat. Then we're going to strain that out, and we're going to simmer that liquid down until there's only about, I'm gonna say maybe a cup of liquid left. We're gonna start with probably about 4 cups of liquid, and we're gonna get it down to about 1 cup of liquid. Then we're gonna add a whole lot of sugar to it until it gets thick and syrupy. I'll show you all of this process. I'm just giving you a breakdown. And then we'll jar it up and we'll seal the jar, even though I'm going to start using it right away. And I think that's it. So if you wanna learn how, or if you wanna see me make chamomile honey, keep watching. Also, I'm saying chamomile honey because that's going to be the dominant thing. I'm going to use some calendula also. It's often used in foods to make it yellow, orange, to brighten the color up. It's edible flower. It's used in skincare products, but you can add it to tea as well. So I figured it'll add a little bit of a bright color to it to go with the bright flavor of the chamomile. So let's do it. All right, so first things first, I'm gonna add about 4 cups of water to this little pot. 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's a little bit close, but that's all right. We could go up in pot size, but I want to use the little one, so I guess I changed that. We're not gonna go up in pot size. I'm gonna use this big burner, but I'm only gonna turn on I can turn on just the small one. So I'm gonna turn it on to high, just the middle part of the big burner. And now I'm going to add in, maybe, I think we will need a bigger pot. Well, whatever, that'll heat for now. 1 second. It's cold and rainy and windy here today. I don't know what it's like where you are, but spring is pushing in and winter is just trying not to let go. We got a big snow 2 days ago. And I'm sitting here thinking, it's almost May, I want to plant plants outside. You should see, seriously, the number of seedlings I have in my house right now. It's kind of ridiculous. For someone who lives in the city, that is. I mean, my mom has a whole greenhouse full, but for me to have them in my house is it's a bit much. There's kind of a lot. No room to walk around right now. Totally unrelated, but if you're into plants, like if you're gonna garden outside this spring, when's your garden season start? My area is around zone 7B, and here we start May 2-4 weekend. So the weekend around the 24th of May is when it's safe to plant here. When do you start? When is your season starting? Oh, also, while we wait for that to come up to a higher temperature, look at what happened to me. I have baby chicks, and I touched the heat lamp and burned myself. Okay, so we're going with a bigger pot. I'm gonna pour in those 4 cups of water into my bigger pot so that we have enough room. And now I'm going to do 2 cups of chamomile into that 4 cups. That might be like a lot, and I think that's fine. I'll tell you if it's too chamomile-y after. Okay, 2 cups of chamomile, and we'll do 1 cup of calendula. A little extra calendula. All right, well, it smells like fall, honestly. It smells like the end of summer. Let me show you. All right, that came up to a boil nice and quick, so I'm gonna back it down to a low. I feel like we might need to add 1 more cup of water. That chamomile really absorbed it all and kind of turned it into like a weird porridge. Let me get 1 more cup of water, so 5 cups of water. All right, with the temperature at low, I'm gonna set a timer for 1 hour. And after 1 hour at low, we're gonna turn the heat off, and then we're gonna let it sit for another 1 hour. I just wonder if we have enough water. Like, I know this is gonna get filtered out, but I want it to get as infused as possible first. Well, we'll start here. So I'm gonna leave that, and I'm gonna tidy up the kitchen while we wait. See the liquid's getting darker. Taking some of that orange and yellow from the calendula. I'm hoping it'll give us a nice honey-colored syrup. It's basically like a simple syrup with, instead of water, it's gonna be a really strong chamomile tea. Oh, it's so pretty. Okay, I'm gonna leave it alone for another hour. Then I'm gonna turn the heat off, but I'll show you what it looks like in an hour. Okay, so now I'm going to turn off the heat. I'm going to set the timer again for 1 hour, and we're just going to let that sit in the hot pot for an hour, and I'll come back then to do the straining and then the next step. So the next items I'm going to be using are the strainer and a coffee filter. I'm going to end up pouring that mixture through this into a bowl, and then we're going to put it back into the pot, and that's when we're going to start adding sugar to it. So that's what we'll be doing in 1 hour. See you then. All right, the timer just went off. Now we've got this nice, still nice and warm, but it's been sitting for an hour. So it cooked for an hour, and then it sat for an hour. It kind of looks like a batter almost. Now what I'm gonna do though is I am going to take a bowl and then put the strainer in the bowl, and then put a coffee filter into the strainer, and then we're gonna put the mash mix into there. All right, and I'm gonna let that sit in that coffee filter until the liquids have all passed through. You can see there's such a beautiful warm honey color, which is awesome. But there's lots of liquid in here. Probably we'll get a couple cups. I don't know. There might be up to a few cups, but I don't think so. But it just needs to sort of sit here and leak out. After a while, if it's too slow, I'll put a weight on top of it to press out some of the liquid, but for now I'll just let it drip out because it's coming. So I'll come back when it's finished. While that is doing its thing, I am going to measure out my sugar just so that I've got it ready for the next step. And I think it's probably gonna be 5 cups, I think. Okay, I'll do 4 cups for now, and we'll see how that looks once we're putting it together. There's 4 cups of sugar. And I'm hoping to get that sugar to condense down into this much. But we'll see. I think it'll be good. All right, it's been a while now. Take those weights off. And I'm going to take the pulp, we've got enough water, I think. And I'll tell you how much that is when I get it into the pot. I'll measure it. But I'm gonna take that pulp and I'm gonna put it back into the big pot that it was in. And I'm gonna put it back on the stove with lots of extra water, and I'm gonna just put that on the stove, bring it up to a simmer again, and I'm going to make a big pot, I guess, of tea. I think I'm gonna use it as bath tea, but it will be just less potent than the first. So I'm gonna take my small pot and I'm going to measure the liquid that we've got here. I'm gonna measure it out and let you know how much. Oh shoot, well, less than there would have been. Okay, so there's 1 cup, 2 cups, awesome. So 2 cups of liquid is going to be perfect. And now I'm gonna turn on the heat on that burner, and I'm gonna turn it on to high. We're not gonna be keeping it there for too long though. Just clean up my mess before it gets hot. Such a pretty color. I know the pot is black, but like, look at how dark it is. Oh gosh, I'm excited for this. All right, this is just about to start boiling now. So I'm going to add my sugar in 1 cup at a time. I'm gonna do 1 cup, and then I'll just wait until it's completely dissolved. And when that is completely dissolved, I'll add another cup, and so on and so forth until all of the sugar is dissolved into this. I'm gonna add another cup of sugar. And at this point, this is dangerous. This is very hot, not kid-friendly. This part of the job is not kid-friendly. As soon as the water starts boiling again, then I'm gonna add another cup of sugar. All right, so we had a little spillage. Everything's okay. Use a bigger pot. Do as I say, not as I do. This pot is not big enough because if it boils over even a little bit, we get a mess. So don't do this. Now I'm gonna turn the heat up just a little bit because I turned the heat down, and we'll let that last big lump of sugar dissolve, and then I'm going to bring it up to a low boil, and I'm gonna keep it at a low boil, making very sure to not accidentally have this overflow. You can see the parts that have already cooked are like sticky. They're molten hot, but this, once it cools down, is already at that perfect texture, like honey. And do you see the color? Look at that. Amazing. All right, so I just turned off the heat, and you can see that it's jelly enough that it's holding onto the spoon now. So it's ready to be poured into jars and cooled down. I'm just gonna skim off the little bit of foam, and that foam is just the impurities and stuff that the coffee filter didn't catch. All right, so while that is just sitting there, I'm gonna just re-wash those jars with some hot water and soap, just so that they are hot and ready. I don't know why or how this happened, but I forgot that I need to have the jars heated. So I'm gonna turn my oven on to, what is it, 200? I have to take stuff out of my oven. I forgot that I needed to do that to jars. So I'm going to heat up the oven now, even though this should have been done, to get my jars to the right temperature so that they don't explode when I pour boiling hot magma inside of them. All right, oven's preheated now. I've got my clean jars. I'm gonna put them in the oven. Get them nice and hot and sterilized. I'm gonna do an extra jar in there. Just finished washing it. I think I might have too much, that's why. All right, so we're gonna let those sit in there, and while they sit, I'm just gonna keep this hot. I'm not gonna have it boil too much. If it boils, I'll turn it down. If it stops being almost boiling, I'll turn it up until those jars are ready. And I also have to get the lids also ready. You already know this is not a canning video. This is a crafty video. See you in a bit. All right, so now I'm gonna pull out my jars. Whew. We're gonna start scooping it out. It's magma right now. Let me try and find an angle that works. So this, I just turned the heat off. It is still very much so very hot. I don't have a funnel. If I had a funnel, I would use one here. This is probably not going to be super fun to clean up. There we go, we'll just put those aside. And now with what's left over, I'm gonna look up a recipe for caramel or candy or something because I don't want to make another jar, I decided. I feel like 2 jars is enough. Okay, so I'm not going to film this part because I don't think that it's a good idea. But I am going to try and turn the rest of this into caramel because it says you need 1 cup of sugar and then like 6 tablespoons of butter and milk and a little bit of salt, and I have all those things. So I'll show you here if it finishes well. Wish me luck. So I did a thing. I can't tell if it's good or not yet because right now it looks like, well, you can see what it looks like. Oh, one of the jars sealed. So this is what it looks like now. See, it's like crumbly. I added a little bit of baking soda there towards the end. I think I screwed it up because I was stirring it. I think that if I had stopped stirring it and just poured it on the pan, it would have been big and fluffy and held together better. But I won't know what I'm doing, so I'm gonna put it in the fridge and we'll see if it tastes good in a little while. Where's the second seal? So it's about a week later at this point and I'm just sitting down now to finally make a label and film this outro. Look at this beautiful honey. Oh, you can see the viscosity just by me tilting it. You can see it's nice and thick. I'm not gonna open this one, but I have this one here. Just to show you again, you can see the thickness of it. This one actually has some crystals at the bottom, which I don't know why that happened. It didn't happen to the other one. I'm going to make a label. I'm going to do the recipe page for this. Patrons, that'll be a coloring page for you and a recipe document. So check Patreon because that'll be up by now. But I want to do a taste test with you for the closing of this video. I wanted you to be able to see the texture. You can see it's like very similar to honey in terms of texture. The color is amazing. Maybe it's a little thinner than honey, but not by much, honestly. And I'm just gonna taste test it and tell you what I think and what it tastes like and if you can actually tell that it's chamomile, if it's anything beyond just being sweet. You can. Oh, it's so good. Okay. Honestly, the thing that I love about this is that because it's flowers that's going into the flavor of the sugar, it does kind of taste like honey. It's not exactly the same. Like honey has like some thing that it does on the tip of your tongue that it's kind of like a zing. This doesn't have that complexity that honey has, but it's still really tasty. You can definitely tell it's chamomile. I can't tell that there's calendula in it, but neither here nor there. It imparted a beautiful color onto this chamomile honey. So I really hope that you try it. If you're growing chamomile this year, you're gonna have extra. That plant produces so many flowers. So with some of the extra, I highly recommend make a really, really thick brew of chamomile tea and then make some sugar syrup and mix them together. And you have this beautiful, tasty snack. It's not a snack. That's all I've got for you today. I will show you a little time lapse of me making the recipe card for this video. And that's about it. Thank you so much to my patrons who are supporting me. I really appreciate you guys. If you want to join my Patreon, check out the links in the description. And if you found this video interesting or entertaining or whatever, give it a like. Don't forget to like the video. It does really help the channel. And because you made it all the way to the end, I'm going to show you a little update on how the chicks are doing because holy moly, do they grow fast. Hold on, I'll go get one. Just look. Holy moly mackerel, look at this big baby. Look at this baby, hi. Look at all these feathers. You got so many feathers now. So this is a little boy. Look at his cute little comb. Hi, how you doing? Isn't he cute? Anyway, see you next time. Bye.